Hello, this is Victoria Pendragon. Welcome to my alternate reality. I have a quick story that I'm actually surprised I never told you before. I just happened to think of it the other day. It's a curious story about puzzle pieces coming together. Back in the 90s, the late 90s, when my second husband and I visited a resort, he used to play volleyball, and I paid for him to play volleyball by doing healing work. And so we were rarely together during the course of the days. And one day, while he was playing volleyball, I was outside doing my yoga on the lawn. And on my way out to lay my blanket down there, I found a piece of a puzzle, just one piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And I thought, that's curious, odd, and for no reason kept it there, and then when I went back in, took it back into the room with me. And later on that day, when it got to be close to dinner time, I went to collect him from the volleyball court. And on my way there, the volleyball court was probably a distance of about a block away, but across some grass and behind a big barn. And I found at the entrance to the barn another puzzle piece, just one. It's not like there were puzzle pieces strewn all over the place or anything. There had been one out in the back of the lodge where I was staying, and now here was another. So I thought, well, this is odd. I wonder what the chances are of this fitting with the piece that I already have, and figured they were, pretty nil. Most of those puzzles are like about 500 pieces to 1,000 pieces. I picked it up and collected him and went back to the room, and darned if they didn't fit. They were perfect. And so I thought, well, this is something and curious, and I tucked them away, and I had kept them for years. My second husband and I parted ways, and one of the things I liked best about this resort is that it was a clothing optional resort, and I like to dance, ecstatic dancing naked. So it was a great place for me to go. And I had been divorced from my second husband for about a year, and I thought, I'm going to go down there. I need to set myself free and dance. And so I booked myself a room in the resort, and oddly, curiously, got the same room that my second husband and I had been in. And so I sort of thought about things. And I had called up a couple of friends of mine to join me at the dance so that I would have some company and wouldn't be necessarily bothered by people I didn't want to be bothered by, because I wanted to dance alone. And I went to the dance and danced, had a great time. The dance was in the aforementioned barn. And after I danced, I came and sat down, and this man came over and asked me if I wanted to dance. And I told him, thank you, but I did not. I had come to dance alone. And he nodded and went back to the table where he was sitting with some people that I had met when my second husband and I used to come regularly to the lodge. And I went back to dancing and danced a little with my friend, and then was dancing more by myself. And he came back and asked me again, because the first time he had asked me, it was a slow dance. There's no way I was going to dance naked with some guy I didn't know on a slow dance. And I guess he figured, well, maybe if it's a fast dance, she'll dance with me. So he'd come back, and I said, thank you, but no, I was really quite serious. I want to dance by myself. And he said, okay. So time went by, the evening wore on, I was dancing, he never asked again, but towards the end of the night, he came back and he said, don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to dance. He said, but if you have a mind to, he said, I live on the street that bears your name, and why don't you stop up for coffee tomorrow if you have a chance and you feel like a walk. So I thanked him, and he went on his way, and I went on mine. And the next morning I got up and I thought, I could use a walk. And he was a very nice guy. I'll walk up there. And so I donned my sneakers and walked the mile up the hill. It was a hot, hot day. And I needed water by the time I got there and could not get his attention. I knocked on what appeared to be the front door. I saw 2 cars there and no bodies. I was just so thirsty. I started walking around the house, peering in the windows, seeing if I could find anybody to ask for at least a drink of water. And it's funny because normally I bring my water with me. So normally I would have just had a swig and gone back. Finally, I heard racket and I could see the guy. And he was working out on one of these exercise machines, and so making so much noise, I imagined he couldn't hear me. So I got a stick from the woods, because the house is in the woods, and I started banging on the window with the stick, because I was desperate. And he heard me, and he signaled towards a door, and I walked to the door, and he met me at the door, and invited me in and gave me a glass of water, which is what I wanted. And we sat down and talked, and I thought, this is a nice guy. I'm glad I did this. And we talked for, golly, about an hour and a half, I guess. And he drove me back down to my car so that I could leave. I was going to spend some time with one of my sisters. And when I had given him my business card, because it had my email address on it, and because he had said something about staying in touch. And he did email me and said, very, nice to have met. He was glad I came up for coffee. And I emailed him back with a link to the YouTube video from a movie called The King and I, which was the song Shall We Dance? Because I thought that would be funny. And he thought it was funny, and he thought it was lovely, and he wrote back and told me that he'd been to my website and read an awful lot about me. Well, to make a long story short, I'm sitting in that house now because we're married. So the puzzle pieces, the one from the room and the one from the lodge, the barn, that went together, that I didn't really... It was funny, I never even thought for a minute they belonged to my second husband and I, because we never did quite go together in that kind of a way. I thought they meant something, and I held on to them for, golly, years. Like, that had to be the late 90s, and I met Robert in 2009. So, over a decade I had hold of those pieces. And ultimately down here, when I remembered and I recollected how that had happened with the puzzle pieces, I gave them back to the earth and let them be, since I had the real 2 puzzle pieces fitting together. And I love that story. I love that it happened. There's lots more within the context of the relationship about the ways that we fit together, including the fact that he built a house on the street that bears my name, which was just accidental. So it's lovely, it's fun, and I just wanted to share it. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Nipper. I have to go. Nipper.